Welcome. My name's Tony Ingraham. This is another episode of Walk in the Park. And just to give you a little date, we're recording this on August 29th. It'll show for the next week. And if you, this is episode 18. If you want to go see this episode and other episodes, you can go to my blog, Walk in the Park blog, at ithacafingerlakes.com. So we're going to go to 3 parks today, and it's going to be a rather exciting day because there's some interesting events going on. They're all in the Albany area. One of them is outside Albany and is a state park, and 2 of them are Albany municipal parks right in the city. So I'm going to go over here to my image screen here. We'll pull up the first one here. That is John Boy Thacher State Park, which is about 20 miles from downtown Albany, and it's a beautiful place. I camped there overnight. That would have been last Sunday, and it's right on the edge of a cliff. Actually, I didn't camp at John Boy Thacher. I camped at it's a nearby park, Thompson Lake, that has the campground. John Boy Thacher has picnic areas and so forth. So what this park is on what they call the Helderberg Escarpment, which is a cliff that runs actually a long distance across the state. The Helderberg Escarpment is a formation of the Helderberg limestone and other Helderberg formations or other formations of limestone that go across the state, north of the Catskills, north of the Finger Lakes, and quite far west, even south of Rochester. The formation appears. Here's the limestone. There's a couple of different kinds of limestone. And this is an interesting area not only because of its own scenic value and its geology, but also it is the northeast corner of what's called the Allegheny Plateau. Now you look on this map and you see New York State and the Catskill Mountains and Appalachian Plateau, and then you see it says Allegheny Plateau, which is really the northern part of this plateau region, which is behind the Appalachian Mountains. And if you eastern New York there, just above that area, you'll see Albany. You can sort of figure out where Albany is. It doesn't really show, but where the Mohawk River and the Hudson come together. And the cliffs of the Helderberg Escarpment are the northeast corner of this huge geographic province that runs way down into West Virginia and Kentucky and so forth, and Western Virginia. So so there they are. So it's pretty neat, not only from its own scenic value, but it's also the northeast corner of things that happened long ago. Now, if you look at this map, this is from the Museum of the Earth, a paper they put out, and this is a map showing a shallow sea west of mountains that covered what's now New York, Pennsylvania, and New England, called the Acadian Mountains, that no longer exist, completely eroded. The eroded material filled in the sea, and the rocks that we have around the Finger Lakes are made up of this eroded clay and silt and sand and so forth. And some of the deepest stuff is, yes, the Marcellus Shale, which appears on the surface because the rocks are tilted towards the south and they come to the surface from the north in the town of Marcellus, which is not far from Syracuse. So anyway, we've all heard about the Marcellus Shale and the gas it contains. There was this ocean or sea that was in to the west of those ancient mountains. It says a shallow sea, but as you get closer to the eastern edge or the right-hand edge of it, it was actually quite deep, and or deep, relatively deep, I should say, and anoxic. And so lots of plankton, algae, and so forth rained on the bottom of it as it died near the surface and filled up this deep trench with a black shale that had quite a bit of organic matter in it, which decomposed and anaerobically and formed things like methane and other hydrocarbons, which now, as we know, can be obtained through deep hydraulic fracturing, high pressure hydraulic fracturing drilling, and a very controversial issue of sorts. So that's all to the way below the ground, thousands of feet down, and this is the northeast corner of the whole Appalachian Plateau province, which has the Marcellus Shale, which is roughly 390 million years old, below it at different depths and different amounts or plenitude or so forth. There's an interpretive sign at an overlook there that shows you different things on the landscape. looking this way, the edge of the cliff, and then we'll zoom in on the signs, a picture of that. And you might be able to notice that in the upper center there, all those arrows coming up from the lower right, it labels Corning Tower, Empire State Plaza in Albany, and shows those buildings. So let's take a look at them. I took a photograph, and there they are. The Empire State Plaza. On the right is the Corning Tower, the big tall one, and then 4 agency buildings, and then the state capitol is, I guess, on the left there. So we're going to go over in that neighborhood, and here's the Empire State Plaza. We'll get back to that in a little while, and we'll walk by it in the video. And then just over by the river, well, they built this highway between Albany and the riverfront, the Interstate 487, and so a few years ago they built a walkway over it so you could get to the riverfront to Corning Preserve Park. Corning Preserve Park. So here's a memorial to that, or some sign here on this post showing that plan and so forth. So, and here we are right at the Corning Preserve Park. So there's waterfront now access from the city by walking over this pedestrian bridge. I don't have a real good picture of that, but it's in the center there is a pedestrian bridge as it climbs up over the highway, and it's nice. I'll have some video in a moment that will show you the access to there. So the reason we're going to these parks, and we'll go to another one too, the West Capitol Park, but the reason we're going to Corning Preserve Park is because on Monday, the 27th of August, there was a huge event. There was a Don't Frack New York rally, because Governor Cuomo is said to be poised to approve hydraulic fracturing through the environmental impact statement that will allow it into New York State on a limited basis. Basically the southern tier, the counties south of Ithaca, Steuben, Chemung, Tioga, Broome, and Shenango counties are all on the chopping block in a sense that would be opened up if he approves this to fracking. And the contenders of the folks at the park meeting at the rally here, I should say, is that there's no safe fracking. The environmental impact statement has ignored scientific evidence that was contrary to the views of the gas industry, and has had the door open to the gas industry for influence and so forth. But rather than me speak for them, I'll let them speak for themselves. So we're going to go to the rally here. Get a video. Be right there in a moment.
Who is sitting in the lap of his legacy. This issue is right in the lap of his legacy, if you get my gist. He will be the one that presses the reset button. That's what I want to believe. I want to believe that he can press the reset button today. The one that lets us finally breathe a breath of fresh air, clean air, because the state of New York will not be on the oil and gas companies' hit list on their way to the bank of 1%. So I'm going to do something unusual for me. I'm going to thank Governor Cuomo in advance, and that I'm looking forward to watching him lead the nation in renewables and to stand ready to help with reparations that we know are coming. Because I think in a way it's perfect for New Yorkers. It's what we do best. So, given that, I would like to introduce the woman who's going to introduce everyone else. She wanted me to say that our MC, Jan Quarles, describes herself as an ordinary citizen who owns a farm in the heart of New York State. All right, have a great day today. Thank you, Deborah Winger. What an honor it is for me to be introduced by Deborah Winger. Wow. It is so wonderful to see this fabulous turnout. Look at how our movement has grown. I want to thank each and every person for being here. Each one of you are my heroes. Each one of you are living proof of the strength of the grassroots movement to ban fracking in New York State. Now, as every MC knows, the first thing I should really say is the bathrooms are over there in the visitor center, this way, and there's a water fountain there too. There's some more that way. Just like you, I believe it's our duty to stand up and speak out for what's right. My name is Jan Quarles. My husband, Michael Deneen, and I own an organic farm in Seneca County. We, for many years, have been part of a grassroots community group called Back to Democracy. And we were so glad that we've been doing that for 10 years because when fracking came to town a few years ago and threatened our farm, we could easily form a coalition with other concerned citizens to ban fracking in the town of Ulysses. Since then, we've met so many wonderful activists who have asked us to share our tips on organizing local bands throughout New York State, including many wonderful brothers and sisters in the Southern Tier who are now going door to door. Our local band movement really took off. Today, fracking is banned in 120 towns in New York State. There are at least another 100 towns who are moving in that direction. But our local band movement is not enough, which is why we're here today. Because if fracking is too dangerous for over 200 towns, it's too dangerous for any town, all the towns in New York State.
Thank you so much.
There will be no sacrifice zones. A recent statewide survey by Cornell University's Survey Research Institute found that the majority of New Yorkers feel the risks of fracking outweigh the benefits. And whenever people have gone door to door, they found the same conclusion. You know why? Because even if the majority of land is leased for drilling in any given town in New York State, that represents a tiny minority of the citizens of that town. So the majority have everything to lose, all the adverse impacts, and nothing to gain. This applies to all towns in New York State, including those in the Southern Tier. So now what I want to say is our struggle has become something more than about fracking. It's a struggle to uphold the right of the majority to determine the future of our own communities. It's a struggle for democracy. Today, you are a part of history in the making. This is the largest number of the grassroots groups against fracking and nonprofits to come together that New York has ever seen. And I see a lot of familiar faces here. I know each one of you behind you, there are hundreds or thousands of neighbors who feel like you do. We want to say today that we want to stop building more infrastructure for fossil fuels and we want to start building infrastructure for renewable energy now. There are thousands who went to the website for this event www.don'tfrackny.org and signed the pledge to resist should Governor Cuomo frack any part of our beautiful state that we love. Today we insist that Governor Cuomo uphold democracy, that he provide equal protection to all New Yorkers with a statewide ban on fracking. And we have many warriors among us, and we have some of the best of them here to speak today. I have the honor to introduce them.
Okay, so that was the beginning of the rally, and there were a number of speakers, and I don't have time on this broadcast to include them. One in particular that you may know is Bill Mckibben, who is an acclaimed writer and environmental activist, and one of the early people to point out the impending hazard of global warming. So anyway, maybe next week we'll be able to look at Bill Mckibben's speech at this spot, but I want to get on to the rally itself, so I'm going to put it back up here. We're going to walk across the bridge that goes over the highway from the Corning Preserve Park on the Hudson over into the city, and then we're going to go up to the Department of Environmental Conservation building, and we'll stop just before that and chat about it. Okay, so we went to the DEC headquarters building, which is a huge, tall, imposing structure on the way to the Capitol, and stopped there, and there was some street theater showing a fracking drill rig being toppled by the people, and then at the end of the thing they put up some windmills. I'm not sure I show that in this video, but in any case, but one of the features of this stop is someone reading out to the crowd that reads it back the statement of the Department of Environmental Conservation, which they feel is not being followed in this whole business about fracking and the environmental impact statement, which is considered by many people to be a sham and not really addressing public health issues, environmental issues been raised by many scientists that don't happen to be allied with the gas industry. But you can read about that elsewhere. I'm going to go right to the place. Before I do that, though, I want to show you my hat. There we go, because we're going to go right by the Empire Plaza. You may be able to notice that as we go by. Actually, here's a picture of the Empire State Plaza. But the State Museum is at the other end of it, but we won't go by the State Museum. So there's my hat. I like to show my hats if I have a hat from an area that we've gone to. But without further ado, let's go to the DEC here, building. that was a lot of fun and very meaningful. And I'm going to go right on to the next one here. Let's see. We'll get the. Let me get back up here a cover photo here. Let's see. We'll do that. This is. We're going to march on to the Capitol Park, West Capitol Park.
Fracking's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fracking's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fracking's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fracking's got to go. Statewide ban! Statewide ban! Statewide ban! Statewide ban! Statewide ban! Statewide ban! Ban fracking everywhere! Water! Clean air! Ban fracking everywhere! Water! Clean air! Ban fracking everywhere!
Okay, so I want to get to the end of it here where we have Josh Fox, who is the, well, we'll just do that. I'll tell you who he is in a moment here. Let me get my devices here up. We'll go to that image as a cover and go on to the end of the rally.
Fracking in this town, get up, get down. There ain't no fracking in this town, get up, get down. There ain't no fracking in this town, get up, get down. There ain't no fracking in this town, get up, get down. There ain't no fracking in this town, get up, get down. There ain't no fracking in. Oh, we will stop you. Cuomo, we will stop you. One, we are the people. Two, you can't ignore us. Three, we will not let you poison our water. One, we are the people. Two, you can't ignore us. Three, we will not let you poison our water. One, we are the people. Two, you can't ignore us. Three, we will not let you poison our water.
From the fossil fuel industries. You guys have marched a long way. You must be thirsty. If anyone is thirsty, I brought some water here from Dimmock. I'm going to pass it around the crowd. This is water from Dimmock, Pennsylvania. I want you to take it. I don't think you should drink it. I love New Yorkers. You guys know everything. Someone just came up to me and said, you know, they spelled Dimmock wrong on that bottle. I was like, oh yeah, sure, it's from their town. But here, just take this and pass that around. I want it back. I don't really want it back, but just take that and pass it around. There's another one over there. Unfortunately, there's far too much of that all across Pennsylvania. I really want to tell you sincerely what this is about for me. You've heard all the reasons. You know there's no safe fracking. No matter what Michael Bloomberg wants to tell you, you know there's no safe fracking. You know the patients fail. You know gases, and you know that the air gets poisoned. But I want to just take a moment with this crowd and tell you, I am doing this because I make friends doing this. I go across the country, I've gone across the world, and there is a threat to your home. There's a threat to my home. There's a threat to those people's homes and people who've had to move out of their homes and people whose homes have been destroyed. And that takes a toll on you. 4 years being under siege by the gas industry in New York. It takes its toll. But this is a community of friendship. It's a community of family. And you have a new family in doing this. No matter where you go around the world, if you find the people fighting fracking, they will be your community, they will be your friends, they will be your family. And I'm here to build the world that I want to live in. I don't want to live in a world where you sell out your neighbors. I don't want to live in a world where you can buy the government. I want to live in a community of friends, a community of support, an actual community. That's what this means to me. We want Governor Cuomo joining that community.
Okay, well, this is to be continued. So next week we'll have some of the other speeches and so forth by some amazing individuals, and plus other things. So see you next time.